All right, let's have a look at this, because this is the latest release by National over the weekend. 13 new roads of national significance. I mean, apparently...
By latest, you mean 2010, right?
Well, I mean, obviously it's worked for them. You know, I guess it's a little bit like if the All Blacks play this weekend and they play MIB back, the Men in Black song. It's an old song, but people still enjoy it and still associate it with something. I guess they've done their research, haven't they? And this has resonated with them. This came out yesterday, but there's been more reporting on it today. Just so you're clear, this is from the Herald yesterday. Luxon's claims on prices for infrastructure and official figures obtained by One News demonstrate that National's expense estimates are far too low. For example, National estimates the cost of the Walkwood to Wellsford is $2.2 billion, but officials suggest it might cost up to $4 billion. According to One News, the Greens said this kind of money should be spent on public transportation. Luxon said even electric vehicles require adequate roads. Others, such as Transport New Zealand, told One News they support the initiative, claiming more road investment makes them safer while also boosting the economy. Now, I have a foot in each camp here, because I think that we need better roads and I think we need better public transport. So it does feel a little bit like a fence at the top of the cliff, ambulance at the bottom of the cliff. I think massive infrastructure investment into roading without public transport is short-sighted, but equally only investment into public transport and leaving the infrastructure is not going to be useful either. But there's ways to do this, which we shall talk about now. Chewy, do you want to jump in before I play anything about what I've just said?
Yes, otherwise I'll burst. Look, it's old thinking, and it's fudged numbers that they must have known were going to get torn apart instantly. I noticed one of the Auckland councillors sort of going, I noticed National were going to fund this big road that's been planned for 1.3 billion, which is way under cost. And then he looked into it and it was funding a third of it.
Yeah.
Not the whole thing. The part of this announcement was that they're going to completely shit can Let's Get Wellington moving, which there's been an enormous amount of consultation, an enormous amount of money spent. It was going to be a full network redo of how Wellingtonians can travel around their city. And they've gone, cool, out the door, 4 lanes to the airport, new tunnel. And everything else gets scrapped. It's just, and there's been so much talk about the climate change, all of that sort of stuff. No, more roads. More roads. We'll get rid of EV. We'll get rid of EV subsidies. We'll get rid of public transport. It's just more lanes, more lanes, more lanes. When all the evidence is, if you want to solve congestion, you provide different modes of transport.
Yeah.
And not more lanes. Because you build more lanes, they fill up.
And this, unfortunately, I think Brooke van Velden is probably quite smart, and she writes well, but I don't think she communicates very well in the spoken word. We're about to watch a bit of a clip, and she basically says, and there is a quote in here, I put it out on my Twitter today, the best thing we can do if we want to talk about the climate crisis, the quote is, if you want to talk about the climate crisis, is to ease congestion by building more roads. This is what Brooke van Velden said today. Ease congestion by building more roads. Now, I think what she's meaning is congestion as in cars not moving, but that doesn't necessarily change the situation with climate change. So she words hard, sometimes live speak, which I understand. But
do you want to know how you solve congestion? You put a couple of hundred people in light rail every 15 minutes.
Yeah, actually, I should have brought it up. There was quite a good tweet by the Greens today. In fact, let me start playing this. Unless I can find it super quick. Let me start playing this video clip. There's a very good little, here it is here. Let me bring it up and bring it across and put it just there. When I say very good, I mean messaging. People can choose to agree or disagree. I don't care. There's the tweet from the Greens today. Nat's transport policy would create more congestion, hurt commuters, and drive emissions through the roof. This is what it stated in October. 50 people on the road with National's plan. There we go. 50 people on the road with the Greens plan.
That's what I'm talking about.
So, all right, let's get to this conversation. It's from breakfast this morning, so there's been more information come out since then. This was the first kind of response, public commentary, because this policy was released yesterday. Brooke van Velden and Chewy's queen on this on the couch.
4 lanes from Whangarei to Tauranga. That's National's newest.
Which is not actually the plan. They talked about that, but it's not. It's actually not what they're planning on doing.
$6 billion
As they say, Chewy, they're walking it back the day after. That seems to be the practice.
election promise is revealed on One News last night. There's more details to come out today, but what we do know so far is being called ambitious in timeline and scale. With us now for their take is Green Party MP Chloe Swarbrick and ACT Deputy Leader Brooke van Velden. Morena.
Morena. Good morning.
Our roads are a shambles, Chloe. We hear about this from people all the time. So is this just a case of us needing to play catch up here?
We definitely do need to play catch up when it comes to the infrastructural deficit in this country. We know that based on, I believe it was either the Productivity Commission or the Infrastructure Commission who...
Sorry, just can we acknowledge again when Chloe just cites research like that? I just want to acknowledge it rather than opinion.
Looked back at the last 30 years and have found that we have approximately $100 billion deficit in the infrastructure that we need to be moving forward as a country. However, I would say that we also are confronted by a climate crisis, and you're not actually going to deal with the issues of induced congestion, that is more people needing to use cars in order to get around, if you continue to provide them with the only option of using a car to get around. And this is why it's really gutting to see that there hasn't been some kind of more meaningful commitment to, for example, interregional rail, which the Transport Select Committee in Parliament issued a report on just a few months ago.
And remember, this is the deputy leader about to come up of the ACT party. This is the deputy leader saying that one of the answers to the climate issues is building more roads. The deputy leader, should they be in government next year, she'll probably be, Seymour could easily be deputy prime minister and she'll be basically running ACT.
Okay, the fact remains, Brooke, we do use our roads and we need them to be of a decent standard. Is $6 billion even enough to actually deal with, as Chloe says, this massive deficit that we're dealing with in infrastructure?
Well, absolutely, we do need investment in more roads because you're absolutely right. People do use them. It's good for people just getting around the country and also tradespeople and getting goods to the different ports and around the country. So there's a huge need for more roads.
What roads do.
But you're right. I'm also worried about just $6 billion and maybe there'll be a cost blowout and putting aside $6 billion now would mean $16 billion in 2 years or 3 years.
Maybe.
And that's why the ACT Party says, yes, let's have more roads, but also we've allowed for toll roads and public-private partnerships to help find the capital and funding to raise these roads and make more of these investments.
The solution is definitely not privatising what should be public infrastructure, because we know that when you have a middleman clipping the ticket and have to make profit, well, guess what? It costs more in the long run for all of us who are using those goods or services. But again, I have to say that this is an announcement that is coming in the context of the climate crisis. We have to and we can actually develop in line with other countries internationally that have, for example, interregional rail. To Brooke's point around, for example, trucks on our roads, we can be getting more of those trucks off of our roads for investing meaningfully in our rail. That results in freight lines all around the rest of the country. We know that Kiwi Rail is in a bit of a shambles. There's a lot of work that still has to be done there.
Look, the best thing that we could do, if you're wanting to talk about the climate crisis, is make sure that we ease congestion. There's a lot of emissions polluted by having congestion. If we had more roads, more ability to move around, you'd have less congestion and less emissions from people sitting in traffic idling. It would actually get our streets moving, but also would make our streets safer for people too. When we invest in more highways and in things like toll roads, they've actually been proved to make our roads safer for people to get around.
There is a literal concept known as induced congestion, which is in town planning, where you build roads such that the only way that people can get around is by using cars. You create car dependency. Right now, we have had successive governments, both locally and centrally, who have not invested in transport options meaningfully. So that's what we need to move away from, inducing that congestion in the first place.
Absolutely.
Yes. There we go. That's where we're going to leave that, because we've got other stuff to talk about. And look, there's another clip I'm going to play. I'm not stopping the conversation, and I'm actually going to scroll a bit forward because, to be honest, I'm
going to paraphrase a little bit here, but Mike Hoskins was talking about this, is that, of course, we need new roads because the public transport system in this country is a fucking shambles. And he's so close to working it out. I just kind of want to be there to go, and what could we do? We could fund public transport and make sure that it fucking works.
Yeah.
But it's that whole thing. It's the same thing that happens with the health system, right? People turn around and go, well, public transport doesn't work, so let's take even more money out of it and put it into roads because I want to be able to get to work and I can rely on a road.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
you know, when Chloe's talking about congestion, I can show you an example.
Go.
Cairo had a congestion problem. Oh, sorry, Alexandria. So they built a lovely new big highway, and then that happened.
Yeah, over time. Expanded population.
Instantly. That's like I think a month after it opened.
Oh.
So it instantly filled up and got congestion. So if Brooke's serious about not wanting, to preserve the
hang on, that I just have to stop you at the first part of the sentence. If Brooke's serious, like, do you need to continue? I'm sorry, do you need to continue on?
No, she's not serious. You can't protect the environment and stop climate change by adding 4 more lanes.
I haven't queued this up properly, so I might not be quite in the right spot. But one of the more important, interesting parts on 3 News tonight was when it was revealed where National's numbers have come from to do their costings, and their numbers have come from the government.
Oh, okay.
No,
Sorry.
So the numbers have come from the government, yet when the government tells them the numbers are wrong, Luxon says, no, our numbers are right. Can you see a map? Because I can't see it in my screen.
I cannot see a map, no.
Yeah, this happened before. See, something's a little bit going on here. I'm going to try one more time. I go there. Oh, there we go. I don't know why it's popping up like that, but there we go. So this might not be quite the right spot, but I just want to play this one bit. So in other words, the government has done the numbers. It's revealed that National has got their numbers for their policy from the government's numbers. The government has said your numbers are wrong. National is saying, no, they're right. So they're saying that the government's numbers are right, even though the government say, no, they've been updated. This is them not costing again.
Us. South Island roads are actually in pretty good shape, and the congestion impacts down there are less.
Justin Ty Umbers represents thousands of truckies.
I wanted to play this as well, actually, because there's an element of this was if it's about the truckies and business, then they need to pay for it. So this is where you put on road user charges massively for things like diesel and for things like maybe you don't do it at the pump for a SUV, but the big places, the truck stops and stuff. If it's the truck companies that want it, then it's the truck companies that pay for it.
Says National's plan will be a godsend for productivity.
Because the roading network's in such poor shape, we're losing millions of dollars every day because of detours, road closures, and driver shortage.
But it won't come cheap. The package has a price tag of $26 billion.
This is the most transparent, upfront costings you've ever seen from an opposition party.
Not if you ask Transport Minister David Parker. He says there's a $2.8 billion pothole in just 4 of the projects he's looked at.
I won't take any lectures from David Parker or this government on our costings.
They should be asked where the money's coming from.
Or we open up access to new financing tools, and it might well mean, as we see with tolls, as we've seen with value capture, as we've seen with targeted rates, things that we can do in order to get that infrastructure built quicker and also not put that burden on the taxpayer of New Zealand. So we are open up for everything. Okay,
real quick, we are open up for everything actually means we don't know how we're paying for it. Because what he's saying is we are open up for everything. It's really important, right? This is important for real journalists to get their head around. Luxon saying we are open up for everything means, yeah, we'll find a way to pay for them. So, not costed. No one understands how this is going to be paid for.
Money tree.
Yeah. Well, we'll just finish this first and then we'll get into it.
Celebrating the return of roads of national significance with a selfie of national politicians.
Well, Lloyd joins us now. Kia ora, Lloyd. So, did National undercook how much it would cost to build some of these roads?
Yeah, well, the government's certainly saying that, as you heard there from David Parker. But here's a spanner, Mike. National's actually saying that the figures that they used in their costings actually came from David Parker's office in a parliamentary written question from 3 weeks ago. And they're right. I've had a look at it, and that's the information that they got from David Parker. But looking at it, it's actually from 2021. So the figure they got was from 2021. David Parker came out today and said, well, actually, I've gone to Wakakotahi and we've revised it up. It's no longer $721 million like I told you 3 weeks ago. It could be as high as $2 billion, so a significant increase there, more than doubling of the cost that he set them. A lot of squabbling today over the battle of the billions.
It's not really squabbling, because it's like me saying to you, Chewy, how much is that quote to get your house painted? And you say, oh, it's 10 grand to get the house painted. And then I come back to you in 3 weeks' time and I say, oh, look, Chewy's house cost 10 grand to get painted. And you go, oh, no, actually, I've been updated. It's now $13,000. And me trying to argue that, no, it's $10,000. Because actually, you know the numbers and they've changed. The government knows the numbers and they've changed. And Luxon's trying to sell the idea that his numbers are right by saying the numbers that the government had in 2021 are what we're using and they're correct, but they're not, according to the government. Your mic's off, bro. Sorry to be a bearer of bad tidings.
Sorry, it's because my dog was barking. It's just, again, one of our major political parties just punching itself in the face rather than doing the goddamn job. Like, Luxon saying, oh, we'll find the money for this through magnificent savings or whatever. We know what it'll be. It'll be the public-private partnerships that they loved so much and did such a shit job of Transmission Gully. The costs blew out. The road was shit. And it's all for these trucking firms. They do not want more freight on rail, and they want to privatize their profits and socialize their losses. They don't want to pay for the roads. Well, the damage to a road done by a truck is an order of 100 times what a private car will do to it. You could build a road and just run private cars on it. They'll never need fixing. You put a truck on it, you're patching it every 6 months.
Yeah. So I will say one thing, right? I'm not anti-tolls, right? If they're done in quite a specific way. I'm a very, very, very old person. I can just remember tolls on Auckland's Harbour Bridge. And at the northern side, this is this picture here, and the northern side of Auckland's Harbour Bridge, there used to be toll gates you'd have to drive through. And once the bridge was paid for, Chewy, they went away. I'm not against that idea. I saw another photo here that I wanted to show you. Check this out. How's that for building the Harbour Bridge? Part of the bridge
you have to get quite a bit of speed up to make that jump.
That's pretty dope, eh? The other thing is, I lived in Tauranga for a little while. Tauranga had tolls on the bridge, and then once it was paid for, the tolls went away.
Yep. Littleton Tunnel is another one.
Right now, I think this is Puhoi. This is north of Auckland. This is actually heading south. This road here, if you're watching, that road there goes up through Windy Ridge and over to Orewa. You don't have to go through the tolls. Now, this is an important part, but if you go through the tunnel, there's a toll. I'm assuming once that's paid for, it will go away. There is one little criteria for tolls though, right? And the criteria is this. There has to be an alternate way. You can't put tolls on a road if it's the only way. So see the map here? The black road there is the new road that was built, and this is the old road we used to go to Northland. You can still go down that road if you don't want to pay the $1 or $2 or $3 or whatever it is. So you have an alternative route. I'm not anti the idea of tolls, not PPP, but government tolls, the government paying for it and then getting the money back in tolls. And then once it's paid for, the tolls go away. It's been used a lot. I don't think that's a terrible idea. I don't think, though, with the PPP, for example, you want to set up a system where we're paying for a road for the next 100 years because it's privately owned. And once it's paid for after 30 years, it then keeps getting paid for the following 70 years.
I can solve this, Pat.
Nationalise. Sorry.
Bring back the Ministry of Works. Yeah. No, it's just more tired, old thinking. And I'm sick of it. I'm sick of them. We don't have the population, or our geography is too challenging. There is an answer to that in every modern country in the world that has a spread out population. It has a similar population to us. That has similar geography to us. They all have public transport by rail that fucking works.
Yeah.
I want more choice than a highway drive or an expensive air ticket.
One of the problems is our current, and I'm not saying this to be a negative Nancy, but one of our problems is our current infrastructure, and it's always difficult to fit that new infrastructure inside other infrastructure. I think at the moment you can't catch a train from Dunedin to Christchurch. I don't think that exists.
I took one of the last ones actually.
That would be brilliant. I mean, I had friends come down for my birthday on Friday from Dunedin. from Christchurch to Dunedin. They could have jumped on a train and come down. Probably, even if it was $25 each way or $50 each way, it probably would have cost less than fuel. They didn't drive their car when they were down here once. I took them everywhere because they were friends and we had a look around the place. I love the idea of rail, but good rail. The problem is, and this is always going to be the problem, a massive amount of investment needs to put in public transport. So in Dunedin, where there's 125-ish thousand people, proper public transport cannot be paid for by the user unless you're paying $40 a ticket to catch a bus. So it has to be subsidised. It has to be paid for by the government. National is not going to be the government to do that, which means Labor's got to do it. Labor Green government has to do it. And then they have to put something in place that it stays. So that's why I said I like the idea of fixing our roads, but only if it goes hand in hand with fixing our public transport as well. But you've now just doubled the bill, Chewy, and that's the problem.
Yeah, absolutely.